Hi, Carol. Just pop yourself on mute for me. Thank you. Yeah, please introduce yourselves in the chat. Yeah, just as we're encouraging everyone to do that during the course of today's event. We've shared a couple of resources in the chat as well. These resources are available on the platform, but we thought actually that be useful for you to have them on Teams as well. And Mina's kindly shared the link to Knowledge Hub, where you'll find a bunch of best management practice guides, one of which is the management of portfolios, which we've shared as a PDF further up the chat. Hi, Ed.
Hello.
Hi, Andrew. Mina's also shared a Mentimeter link that we'd like you to contribute towards. There's a couple of questions we've got in there, and if you can answer those during the course of the introduction, that would be great. Just give it another minute or so for people to come on in. You're welcome to put your message in the chat, as some of you been doing in previous sessions. You can use the chat for questions as well. We've got a couple of questions lined up for our panel, but please, we've only got a few, so we just thought it'd be a bit of a conversation starter, really. So do get them in. Welcome to those that have just joined us. Just put yourself on mute for now and tell you a little bit more about this session. It is being recorded at the moment, so we'll be sharing this out with people that aren't able to make the session. As it's only half an hour, I'm gonna kick things off if that's okay. So a very warm welcome to session 7 of the NHS Project Futures Compass 22.1 event this afternoon. We hope you're gaining a great deal from today's event, which has all been about portfolio management. I'm Mike Gray, Capability and Resourcing Manager at Health Education England, and I'll be your panel host during today's session. For the next 30 minutes, we're going to be putting your questions and challenges on setting or running a portfolio, governance and reporting considerations, and lessons learned to a hand-picked panel of experts from across the NHS. So please introduce yourself in the chat, what challenges and barriers you might be experiencing portfolio management that we can put to the panel, and use this as an opportunity to network with others. We're going to activate a couple of Mentimeter polls, and Mina's put that in the chat at the start of the session. And we'd really like your opinions. It's really important to us. And Mina's been supporting the session throughout, and she'll be putting that those results up shortly. So let's get straight into it and meet your panel members. So first we've got Simon Smith, MAPM. He's a risk and governance analyst at the Department of Environment, Food and Rural Affairs. Recent roles have been focusing on risk management for both the Valuation Office Agency and Health Education England, as well as developing supporting materials for PPM development. Simon is a member of the Association for Project Management and is an APM risk practitioner. Welcome, Simon.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Mike.
Also on our panel today, we have Anderson John, Portfolio Operations and Governance Lead at Health Education England. Anderson has worked at HE for 8.5 years and in the portfolio environment for over 6 years. During this time at HE, Anderson has implemented the PM3 PMO software and is currently co-producing a portfolio pipeline process aligned to organisational strategy. Welcome, Anderson.
Hi, everyone.
Big warm welcome to Catherine McCarthy, Head of Corporate Portfolio Office and Head of Profession at the Health Research Authority. Catherine has extensive experience of portfolio programme and project management in the private sector as well as in the NHS. Welcome, Catherine.
Hi, everyone.
And also Martin Sheridan has joined us today. Martin is the Head of IT Delivery and Development for Greater Manchester Shared Services and has more than 17 years NHS experience. His role is to oversee the developments of IT projects across primary care and assisting GP practices with their digital needs and challenges. Welcome, Martin.
Hi, everybody.
And completing today's panel is Dean McGarr. Dean is Programme Head within the Assurance and Risk Management Directorate, Corporate Portfolio Management Office at NHS Digital. In his capacity, he and his team endeavour to supply excellence in the provision of portfolio management services with enthusiasm, creativity and energy to facilitate successful delivery of NHS Digital's programmes and portfolios in a complex and dynamically political and stakeholder environment. Welcome, Martin.
Thank you, Mike, but it's Dean, so it's fine.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it is Dean. So you can tell I'm reading from scripts, can't you?
Hello, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Dean. That's great. And that completes your panel today. So I think we're just going to have a quick look at the results of the poll that have been going on. Mina, are you able to share that?
Yeah, I can.
Lovely.
See if you can see my screen. That's the first one.
Thanks, Mina. That's great. So yeah, I appreciate some of you just been coming in and perhaps missed the Mentimeter link, but we're just having a flavour for those that use portfolio management within their organisations. Mina's put a link in the chat at the start of the conversation to encourage you to complete that. We've got what 45 people on the call. So that's kind of comforting, isn't it, to see that your organisations do use portfolio management currently. A couple of you are not quite sure, which is always it can be the case. Some of you don't use portfolio management at all, so that's interesting. Thanks, Mina. Do we have the next poll?
Yep.
Lovely. Thank you, Mina. Is this what your organisation would describe as a portfolio management? So we actually took that from the Body of Knowledge 7th edition, and it just has a kind of line as to how that would be described. So we've got 9 votes on that at the moment, 3 of which aren't sure, and that's absolutely fine. I think, again, with these polls, you're never quite sure which end of the scale you're on, but it's always good to get a bit of a taste for that. So that's great. Thanks very much for participating in that one. We've got a final poll around common causes, and one of the questions we're going to put to the panel is around this. So bit of a spread on that one at the moment. Lack of senior management buy-in being the most common cause of portfolio failure currently. If you are just joining us, we're just covering a short Mentimeter poll that we've got running. Ten people that have completed that so far. That's great. Okay, well, we can come back to that, but that's interesting that senior management buy-in is perhaps the one common cause at the moment for people. Okay, well, I will stop sharing my screen. We do, as I said, we do have a couple of questions lined up for the panel, so we haven't sort of rehearsed who's going to answer these. So we're just going to chip in and we'll someone will decide who wants to answer this first. We've split them up by kind of themes, really. So the first one being lessons learned. So this is a question to the panel. As project professionals, we want to plan for the best and be prepared for things when things go wrong in portfolio management. We know from studies and some of the common factors of when portfolios fail, a lack of senior management buy-in being one of those examples. Can you talk about your experiences as to how you address these common factors of portfolio failure? I don't know who wants to take that one first.
I'll go first, Mike. Don't know if I'll adequately answer that, but I'll make the first attempt, and another panel member could probably supplement anything that I've said.
Great, thanks.
It's always a tricky one, this, to be honest, in terms of engaging senior management and getting them on board with the portfolio process. I think organizations differ, so I'm going to speak from the context of a public sector organization, because that's where I'm based. One of the things that I've learned over time is the importance of people and helping them along any journey that you may have. We as professionals, we have the technical knowledge, and sometimes we seek to impose that technical knowledge. I think someone raised something quite key earlier today, and it was about using business language. I can't quite sure if it was Ed. I think it was Ed. Business language, and that stuck out for me because I've learned that over time, that it's not about imposing the technicalities or the technical nature of project management and overwhelming people with the complex nature of that, but speaking their language and taking them along that journey. And it took me 6 years to get to that point, and I'm still trying to understand a little bit more and also incorporate, the stakeholders along that journey, especially senior management. One of the things I would say for portfolio offices too is, in that profession, is building a picture of selling yourself, because again, we sit back on our high horses and we have that professionalism, but people don't truly understand what portfolio management is all about. Okay. And if we kind of flip things around and try to sell ourselves, sell what we're about, just like if you're going for a job. Okay. So what are the benefits that we would bring to you, and how can we work with you, okay, to achieve your goals? So it's about balancing where we want to be as a portfolio and also incorporating that vision of senior management. And I think that has helped so far. I'll be quiet now because I know others want to interject. I could see Catherine's hand.
No, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead, Catherine. Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing I was thinking of was more to do with capacity. That one of the things that we're quite good at doing our business planning. We start quite early. We're very organised, and in April we've pretty much got a good business plan in place. But almost straight away, new projects come along, new programs are identified, and the new business cases are submitted and approved. And straight away, I'm asked, "Oh, have you got a project manager? Have you got a program manager available?" And we're such a small organisation. It was interesting listening to Neil earlier on that he's got a portfolio office with 80 people. We're 12, and one leaves today. So left yesterday. So for us, it's about capacity, and I think understanding that you're constantly going to have change, and you're going to have to deal with change through the whole of the year. So I think that's one of the key ones for me.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's every organization is of a PMO is of a different size, isn't it? So I think that brings its own set of challenges as well. Martin.
Yeah, I'd just like to add, I mean, we're talking about the word failure here. From a portfolio management perspective, it's not the portfolio management that's failing, it's the organization that's failing to adopt it correctly. We need to get that separation between project management, program management, portfolio management. Portfolio management needs to be a holistic approach. It has to be the whole organization. It has to all buy into that. So if it's to fail, it's because the organization didn't apply the right resources, the right communication, the right buy into it. The politics are probably wrong, and it's about the lessons we should learn by it. It's not throw portfolio management under the wheel. It's go back and look at our organization and say, why have we got these problems? And certainly within the NHS, the internal politics is probably the big killer for us. It's the old adage of, yes, I agree with it as long as my project goes first. And that's the problem you have that everybody agrees with the principles, but everybody wants their slice of the cake to be the biggest slice of the cake. So I think it's getting back to that culture and making sure that people understand the benefits of portfolio management, but there is a buy-in that has to be done at the very senior level to make sure that everybody understands the principles we're trying to get to.
Interesting. Thanks, Martin. What's your take on this, Dean?
Well, I would agree with everything that's been said thus far. I would also add, however, that we've just done quite an extensive exercise in identifying lessons learned from major change programs across, the delivery across the NHS. And whilst we've done a good job in collating all those lessons learned, it's actually making those lessons real for people. It's bringing them to life. It's okay having a database or whatever, but it's actually how do you then divert people or put people in the right direction to learn from those lessons so they can apply them in their own areas, their own projects. And that's what I think has been missing. We've tried this, we've had knowledge management teams in the past, we've had lessons learned teams, but it's never really succeeded. And now we've got this challenge again. It's actually how to make them real for people. Not sure what the answer is, because I expect everybody's got that sort of dilemma in their own different organisations. But collectively, perhaps we can come up with something, because we all work for the NHS. We're about to move across into, NHS EI in the very near future, and obviously trying to ensure those lessons are passed along to colleagues in NHS EI as well. We try to theme them, categorise them, and then who to speak to if that sort of person, if that lesson occurs. And there's initial interest, but then it just wanes off unless you actually keep the momentum. So like clear comms, ensuring we do it at the end of the change programme, but on an ongoing basis as well. So I would agree with everything that's been said, plus what I've just added there.
Yeah, thanks, Dean. That's another thing to consider when we're doing these things. Simon, you got anything to add on that?
Yeah, I think I'm agreeing with everybody here, and I think for me there's loads of different facets with this where portfolio management can fail. It's not just about prioritizing the right projects and programs to move forward and understanding whether or not you've got the resources to be able to deliver the business need, but it's also understanding what the capabilities are out there, what language that's spoken, what buy-in have you got from your senior managers, and do they know their responsibilities to be able to open up the decision making to give that kind of ability for us to progress portfolio management holistically, and you haven't got these kind of bottlenecks where things seem to stop because of a lack of understanding or of a lack of kind of buy-in. So it's making things clear, it's making things obvious, it's speaking the right language, it's getting people to understand the value that it provides them by implementing this and how it supports them delivering their business objectives.
Yeah, that sort of leads on to another question we had lined up, which was around sort of stakeholders and at what points do we engage with them and what are the ways we should be engaging with them and at those different stages in the life of a portfolio. Has anyone got any thoughts on that? What works when you're engaging either early on, just starting up, or you kind of further in the portfolio management process? Catherine?
Yeah, so from my point of view, in terms of the business planning, I think we're really good. So we involve the exec team, we involve heads of functions, we involve the program managers who are writing the business cases. So that's all really good. But it was interesting listening to Ed's talk earlier on, where he said that ongoing, there's a real need to engage some of the people at the exec level because some are really on board with it. And some people just want that they want their pot of money and then to be able to just go off and do whatever projects they want. So I thought that was a really interesting point that he made, that there's a lot of work to do there to get everybody on board with it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, there's been I think a lot of conversations today that people will perhaps take away and decide what to do best, what the next steps, and certainly Ed talked a great deal about what we can use to actually change the way we work and do things, and that for me was real good takeaway. Anderson, go ahead.
Yeah, again, I'm just drawing from experience, and I'm no professional here, but I'm hoping that whatever is shared today, that people are able to deduct something from it and use it in their own locales. You got to know your audience. Simply put, you got to know the people that you're actually engaging. Don't pretend. And a part of that is to get stuck in and get your hands dirty. So from the top to the bottom of the organization. I've learned, because I tend to be very insular, I'm not ashamed to say that, but I've come out of that shell now. I've learned the importance of really engaging individuals and making them feel a part of that journey, not just instructing, not just telling them what they need to do, but giving them that, simplistic understanding the best you could on why you're doing things and how we should do things as an organization, to building consistency and best practice. And that has worked so far. Of course, you still have challenges here and there. You still have resistance. I don't want to digress too much, but I'm only now learning the importance of change management in the process. And that is heavily weighted on people. Okay, so the different mindsets, the different things that actually restrict or impinge change. And this is something that we need to actually incorporate in the work that we're doing. Not just that we are PMO or PFMO or portfolio professionals, but recognizing that people could either aid or hinder what we're doing. And I just wanted to just say that.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. But I think there's something around, and there's been comments in the chat about it. But how does portfolio management work in reality when you are engaging with different people at local, regional, national level, when everyone's kind of got a different priority, different take on it? How do you make those relationships work? Martin?
I think this is the key point of when you get to portfolio management. You have to adapt it to your local circumstances and what's best for your organisation. And I think the original question was, how do we engage our senior stakeholders from where, if it's day one? Now, if we don't have them on board from day one, we're probably not going to get past day two, to be honest. Let's say there has to be a desire to do that. And I think the key thing is aligning it to the organisational strategy. We need to understand what that organisation is trying to do, wants to do. And I think, as professionals, we need to go in there and explain the benefits of the approach we're going to take to deliver that to the strategy. That strategy, the problem with the strategy we tend to get, and certainly in my organisation, in the NHS, those strategies tend to be very high level and fluffy, and very difficult for people who are at a lower level to understand what that means. But I think the job is to interpretate what they mean at a high level strategy and use our lower level knowledge to say, well, actually, if you want to do A, we've got X, Y, and Z that will enable you to get there. Now, it might not look like in what you normally expect, the fluffy presentations and things like that, but this is how we can show you a roadmap to get to your strategy to actual delivery.
But how does that work in terms of a planned portfolio approach to being a reactive organizational state? The last couple of years in COVID has taught us how do we, we want to do the right things, but when you've got such rapid change going on around us and the impact the pandemic has had and continues to have on our health system, how do we kind of react to that and balance that, and mitigate the risks and the inherent optimum bias that comes with that?
So this is the key benefit, and if anything, COVID should have taught us that portfolio management is the way forward, because it allows an organisation to very quickly change its direction and change its priorities. Now, if we'd have followed the previous method of, everybody's got their budget, everybody hold on to the budget, nobody's going to give up that budget, we wouldn't have done what we did over COVID. But the fact we could operate at central level, we could look at our changing priorities, provide almost a Moscow process to everything we had in front of us, turn around and say, well, actually, what was really important yesterday is now not important from an organizational point of view. So everybody is now moving to a new position. If you try to do that at a program level that isn't aligned to the organizational needs, then you're going to fail, because certainly in my, obviously, delivering IT is great, but if I can't get access to the clinicians I need to do that, I'm not going to deliver my project. But if those clinicians are on board with a new changing priority, then we can move the whole organization. I think the thing you need to remember is when you do act reactively, that at some stage you're going to have to pay the price sometime in the future. And I think that's in the situation we are now. But by changing the organization vision, but changing what the strategy of the company wants to be, you can do that at a portfolio level. Very difficult to do it at a lower level within an organization, because you won't get people pulling in the same direction.
Simon, what's your points you want to make?
Yeah, I totally agree. And if you've got a good foundation of portfolio management, it gives you that opportunity to do that horizon scanning and basically seeing and de-risking any kind of change delivery that you've got.
Several days have gone. You've not come to say good morning.
Just pop yourselves on mute.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought there, Mike. So
okay,
yeah,
Simon.
if you've got people on board, it's about understanding your stakeholder community. It's about keeping them focused on what the delivery of the portfolio is. And if at any particular time the business, because like you say, business kind of strategies can change on a whim through ministerial kind of policies or anything like that, it gives you the ability to quickly get those kind of forums together and impact the portfolio and understand what the new priorities are and whether or not you are delivering this as part of business as usual, or what do you need to change within your operational functions to be able to support the new objectives.
And do we have the skills to do that? Is there enough skills to be able to kind of carry out that that way of working, that strategy? Because there's conversation in the chat around skills, and do we have enough in the right areas to be able to deliver those things in an effective and cohesive way? Dean?
Yeah, I think it's linked to what was said earlier about it's okay having portfolio management skills in certain pockets of organisations, but you do need people at a senior level and other levels across the organisation to have those skills and capabilities as well. And what we did in COVID, similar to what Martin and Sam were referring to there, we had a front door process, a triage process, where every day was chaired by the chief clinical officer that basically looked at new work requests as they came in. They were doing portfolio management, but they wouldn't call it that. They'd call it something else. Yeah, they were just prioritising what areas we need to do, what areas we weren't going to do today, but maybe do them next week. But it's about educating people. So I think there's a key thing. You've got a lot of people that go away on MPLA courses at C levels in the organisation. Do they come back and apply those skills and capabilities in the organisations? Generally, my experience is not. It's very difficult to get those people on board. And going back to the other point about how we engage with stakeholders, Mike, was referenced earlier, we have some good people who know about portfolio management at that level. They don't then apply that. They go off on a tangent. At a local level, in my team, we've been sort of doing portfolio partnering to help teams, support teams into reporting, risk and issues, all those sort of things, lessons learned. But ultimately, I cannot deliver portfolio management on my own in this organisation, which I sometimes get criticised for not doing. Well, actually, it's your job. We've got a portfolio function. It should just happen. Well, actually, it doesn't. You study the buy and engage with those senior people to make it happen. And that's what I think is missing generally across many organisations, as everybody's referenced here.
Thanks for your input there, Dean. That's a lot of nods of heads there. Catherine?
Yeah, just very quickly, I'll say you almost need both. So I know in our organisation, when COVID started, we had to move from approving research studies from 60 days down to doing it within 24 hours or 48 hours. And so you just needed people who just could react to that and do that. But then on the back of that, we introduced a fast track service, but that could be delivered in a more controlled way. So I think within an organisation, you probably need to have both.
Nice, thanks, Catherine. I'm just looking at the question there from David around how does portfolio management move in a consistent way alongside other methods of change within the NHS organisation, whether that's organisational development, organisational merge, research, quality improvement. Anyone got any thoughts on that? Yeah, Simon.
Yeah, I think for me, these things are enablers to understand what we need to do as regards portfolio management. As long as these things are done within the same, thinking of the same kind of vision as what portfolio management is, which is about delivering the strategic objectives. So anything that you identify in continuous improvement, anything that you find in research and development, any kind of change management, it all should complement portfolio management, understanding what the resources are that needs to be able to effectively deliver change in to operations, and ensuring that you've got that kind of user-centric focus as well, which you need to do now, and it's not something that's outside projects and programs, as Anderson alluded to. It's being more and more embedded about that kind of user kind of experience as well as delivering a scope.
Has anyone got any advice on someone that's just starting up a portfolio management approach? What advice would you give to someone? just doing it for the first time? Any hints, tips, resources, useful courses to go on?
I would say the first thing is find allies within your organisation. Find
Yes.
allies at senior level, people you can work with, people of a like mind. You're not going to change things overnight, and I think
Yes.
it's almost like an organic growth that you have to build within your organisation, and you have to do it from a benefits-led approach as well. You know, yeah, the return on investment are always going to be key, and they're going to become more critical over the next few years. But I think it's working with people together to see the benefits, and eventually it will organically grow. The key barrier will be you're going to hit people who are against it just for they are, and it's how you deal with those. You know, you can't just say you're not part of the portfolio, you don't want to play and ignore them. You have to work through any change process. You have to engage with them in the change process. But I think it's like finding like minds, finding no typical project management approach, or lean approach, get the quick wins, you know, but do it at a strategic level. You know, delivering 10 PCs is not going to get you a portfolio management overnight. But if you can do it in a way that you can show it aligns to the strategic objectives and report that and communicate that, then I think you're going to be on the right way.
Nice. Thanks, Martin. And Dean?
Yeah, I agree with most of what Martin says, actually, in relation to benefits and value add. So executive and strategic is one thing, but also you can influence people at, if you like, the level that we're at in relation to convincing them that this is why we're doing it, these are the benefits in this, and helping and supporting them to get to where they need to be. They will then say, this is what portfolio management does for me, and they can in turn influence their own areas. This happened a few years ago where I was getting nowhere with a program director. So I then changed tactic and engaged with this sort of next to director down level and the program head in that space manager, engaged with them, supported them through a gateway review, all the logistics, those sort of things. And they convinced or influenced the senior director in that space to say, look, this is what Dean and team can do for us. And therefore, I got the door was open. Yeah. So there's different methods. As I think John alluded to earlier, it's about knowing your audience, knowing your stakeholder, about tackling at the right level and trying to open doors in a different way. Not one size fits all.
No, that's great. Thanks, Dean. And Anderson?
Yes, quite simple. I just made some notes here. So I think someone mentioned about quick wins, so low-hanging fruit, because I mean you need to demonstrate that your portfolio is making an impact. So your portfolio office is making an impact, or whatever it is that you're proposing is making an impact. You've got to demonstrate that. And also, can't even understand my own writing here. Forgive me. But yeah, it's everything that that was actually said. And don't try to. I think I'm stealing this from my boss actually. Probably she has stolen it from someone else. So don't try to build the Taj Mahal. Okay, create the shed. Okay, because that's something that you never had before. All right, so you had nothing before. You had no building. Don't try to just build the Taj Mahal all at once. So incremental change is what I would actually propose if you're just starting a portfolio office.
Thanks, Anderson. That's great. We're out of time, unfortunately. I hope you've found this session useful. Listening from our panel members, perhaps this is something where we'll pick up again in another session, another point. If you are interested in anything like this, do let us know on the NHS Project Futures at he.nhs.uk address, and we'll welcome your ideas to this, because I think this is the start of a conversation and a broader topic for people. That just leaves me to say thank you to the panel members. Thanks very much for your input today. I know you've taken time out of your day to chat to people, but I do feel you've made a connection and people will go away thinking differently about portfolio management. So thanks very much. Next to follow this session is the last session of the day, where we're going to be talking about next steps, some highlights of the event, and look towards how we build a successful profession and look at some outcomes from that. So Joe Stanford and Nick Hamilton will be sharing that. So do get involved, and we'll see you soon. So thanks for joining. Take care.